Good morning, everyone. Today we have a question for you. Are you old enough to make your own decisions?
Mhm.
How old do you have to be? But in the meantime, did you bring your nice warm drink or cold drink?
I
Uh,
don't like
y'all
drink.
know about the fires in Texas. We have been very dry. Even since the fires, we've had, you know, a sprinkle, and that's about it. But we got 2 days with some good rain. We've had about an inch of rain here at my house, which we are just ecstatic about. But it's chilly outside, and I was out doing the chickens and taking care of the ducks. And by the way, I do have new ducks. But it's a beautiful day out. And I said something about to Barbara, and she goes, "Oh, well, it's sunny here." I said, "Well, it'll be sunny here." And it's sunny now, but we had wet. So
Yeah.
that's like big celebration in this part of the country.
Mhm. That's
So
what we were talking about at church yesterday, that we had such an odd winter. We
yeah,
had hardly any snow. I mean, we were out in shirt sleeves in February in Chicago. You're kidding. But but now we're kind of wondering, oh, what's the summer going to be like? Is it going to be really hot and
I've
humid?
been
Is it going to
wondering
be
that.
hot and dry?
Yeah.
And, but I just think it shows that God has a sense of humor. That we
Well,
think
and
we're able to
you
do anything
you
about
know
it.
something else, we don't usually get to see the aurora borealis.
Yes, that
It
was
has
the
all week. It's been, and it's supposed to go on another couple of days, but every state in the United States has seen the aurora borealis this week. Every
wow.
state.
Yeah, I've seen pictures. When it went through Chicago, I was on a podcast, and it was
Mm.
like, and afterwards it was like, okay, well, but you
Well,
know
but
what?
the
But I'm
thing is,
from Montreal, so we used to see it.
it's in at night, and
Yeah,
if you can get away from the lights, you can see it because
right.
it's like going on for long terms of it. Every night, I think, for 3 or 4
I'll have
nights.
I'll have to go look.
Yeah, yeah. The first night when it was supposed to be so big, I thought, I am so tired. And seeing them is on my bucket list
Yes,
of life. And
yeah,
then I didn't walk out my door, but it was a case of walking out my door and waiting for hours. But
right.
they were amazing here. In fact, Meredith Mikes posted pictures of it across the lake and
Yeah.
stuff. So that was really, really fun.
Oh, yeah.
But let's
One
get
of
to
one of
our,
God's miracles.
oh, yeah, yeah. Uh, he shows his wonders in the heavens. He
Yes,
shows his wonders in the heavens. So if you're not looking up, you better start looking up. So because it's getting really, really interesting. Um, and we've done preparedness broadcasts, and you know people go, "Oh, you're a prepper, or you're this or you're that," but even the government is saying, be prepared for 2 weeks of no power. Be prepared. 3 days to 2 weeks is what you typically hear. And that is important because hurricanes, and
right.
actually the Houston area had, not our friend in Houston, but north of her, had the same amount of rain last week, I think it was, as in Hurricane Harvey.
Oh, wow.
Hurricane Harvey rained so much rain on that area that it depressed the crust of the earth.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot of rain. That is a lot of rain. But, I mean, stranded people, flooding, and it's happening all over the world. It's not just us. We
Mm.
notice it because we hear it on the nightly news, if you still watch that and stuff. But that leads us to our thing, if you still watch it. Are you old enough to make your own decisions? Let's go there. Barbara had an interesting conversation with her sisters. So
Yes.
her oldest sister.
My older sister. By the way, I'm Barbara Ellison.
Mm,
We didn't introduce ourselves
no.
today.
And
But
I'm
anyways,
Carol Henderson.
yeah, which is good. But we're both in just living life, spiraling up and living your best life and those kinds of things. And sometimes we tend to teach the things that we know we have to learn for ourselves.
Yeah.
And yesterday, it started several months ago. My sister is turning 80.
Mhm.
And I'm like, I'm her much younger sister, of course, but she's turning 80. And so we have been talking for weeks, many, many, many times over the last couple of months about what she wants to do for her 80th party. And she has just been putting off making a decision. Well, okay, but I live in Chicago. She lives in Montreal. I need a little bit of prep time if we're going to do anything. Well, yesterday it was like, okay, Liz, so what's happening with your birthday? She said, you know what? She said, this is probably awful. And I said, well, number one, it's your birthday, and nothing that you decide about your birthday is awful. You get to choose what you want to do on your birthday. She said, I don't want to do anything. And I went, well, then don't do anything. I said, then wait. And what do you want to do? She said, well, you know what? Her husband, when he turned 80, it was during the shutdown. So they couldn't do anything for his 80th. Well, next year is their big 50th wedding anniversary. And she said, you know what? I am just going to have a huge bash next year and do it all and celebrate everything, because I'm turning 75 next year. My other sister is it's her one of her big anniversaries, and I don't remember exactly which one. And then it's Liz and Lauren's anniversary, and we're just going to have a huge family bash next year. Well, I guess her daughter is turning 50. So she said, I'm just going to do it next year. I'm just not going to do it this year. And I said, well, Liz, that's your decision. And that's kind of what sparked the conversation, is that it's like, and that's what Liz and I talked about yesterday, that we are at the age now where if you don't like what I'm doing, that's okay.
Yeah,
It's
but
your
how
problem,
many
not mine.
times, what things and how many times do we do things
Yep.
just to keep other people happy or to try to fulfill the norms? Uh,
Right.
maybe have a big party out of time and it could be a financial strain or a travel
Right.
strain or any of
Yep.
those things on yourself or the people, just because it should be. Like
Because it should
Mother's
be.
Day yesterday, you know?
Right.
Yeah. What did
Yeah.
you do on Mother's Day?
I had a beautiful Mother's Day. I went to church, went to Sunday school, came home, had a great conversation on the way home from Sunday school. And then of course sat in my driveway, beautiful, beautiful day here in Chicago, sat in my driveway and continued the conversation with my sister. We were just sitting out, and my door was open. Well, then of course I inadvertently hit the lock button. The keys were on the seat. Well, guess what? I am very blessed that I live in a small town, know the local police officers, sent her a little message on Facebook and said, geez, sometime when you're out on patrol, can you come by and unlock my door for me? And I got a message from her and said, yeah, well, she'll just stop by. But one of the beauties of being in a small town. And I was like, as soon as I closed my door, I went, oh. And of course, can I find my spare key? No. I know, and I
You
can
put it in a
remember
safe place.
somewhere. I put it in a safe place, and it's like, but you know what? That's when it was like, all right, Barbara. And then, and then this was after having this wonderful conversation about, we are at the age where we can do what we want to do when we want to do it. And
Mhm.
so yesterday, I just did a few things around that I needed to do, like take care of my pets and eat and all that kind of stuff. But then it was like, you know what? I'm going to read. I'm going to do things that I want to do. I had the house to myself. And of course, I went through but you know what? I don't know about you, but I went through the list. Oh, well, I should do this. I should do that. I should do this. I should do that. And then went,
Yeah.
why?
Well,
And
and
never
as women,
myself,
we look around and see the shoulda, coulda,
uh,
wouldas
should
surrounding us. In fact,
exactly.
in my Bible study that I go to on Wednesdays, where there was a word from a lady named Lana Vosser. Look it up, great word. Um, just this last week. And so we read it in Bible study, but it's kind of a in a way a call to action, but it's new stuff. I mean, new hot off the press stuff. And so we talked, kind of discussed it and talked about it. And then our Bible study teacher called Bible study off this week. But our so what we're supposed to do, excuse me, is to get in your car, leave your house, just like you were going to Bible study. Pull over somewhere. Don't come to Bible study because we're not having it. But
Mhm,
sit there and go through and do the things. Take it to God of what, and so that's what we're doing this week. Um, for me, I booked Keith a doctor's appointment around Bible study. So I'm going to have to do mine at another time. But it, you have to get away. You can't just say, oh, I'll do it at home. Because
mhm.
so often home carries so many shoulda, coulda, wouldas.
It shoulda,
That's
coulda,
what
woulda.
for women. I don't know that it's as bad for men. Uh,
Mhm.
I'm sure some men it is, but
Yeah,
for most men, I don't think it's that.
yeah. And it's just those things like this. Okay, like this morning. Okay, my grandchildren, we all live together. And this morning I came out of my room and there has been a pile of clothes at the top of the stairs for 2 weeks. I didn't have no idea who they are. No idea who they are. So finally, but they were in front of one of it. And I finally said to her, I said, Matilda, are these your clothes? She said, no, Grammy, they're not mine. And I went, well, whose are they? She said, I don't know. She didn't know whose they were either, but they were sitting at the top of the stairs. I said, well, this is ridiculous. I picked them all up and went down, took them downstairs, put them on top of the wash machine. They'll get washed and then somebody will have to claim them. It was just the funniest thing. I was like, okay. And I said, well, are these your shoes? She says, no. I said, then what are they doing here? You know?
So who else lives
Like,
upstairs besides the two of y'all?
well, there's 5 of us that live upstairs.
Upstairs. Okay.
6 of us that live upstairs. And it was like, okay, no clue. I mean, I knew they weren't mine. They wouldn't fit me. They were way too big for me. But it was just the funniest thing. She said, I don't know, Grammy, they're not mine. I said, then what are they? But I mean, she had to walk over them to get in her door. So why didn't you pick them up? I just teenagers. I laughed so hard. I said, well, I'll just pick these up.
Well, and you're the nice grandmother. Some people in that situation, especially after 2 weeks, would put them in the trash.
Yeah.
You ought to put them in a trash bag and
Oh,
say, "Oh, I put them in a trash bag," and see what somebody says.
that,
I mean, not really toss them, but put them in a trash bag just to, because 2 weeks is a long time.
they had
And
been,
at the
they've been
top of the stairs, it could cause
at
a
the
trip
top of the stairs.
fall.
Well, just that, like there's a little railing and it's just on the not right at the top of the stairs, but still at the top of the stairs. But it
Yeah.
was just the funniest thing because I kept thinking, why
I'm
isn't she
surprised
picking them
Matilda
up?
didn't say something to somebody
Well,
if it's in
they were
front of her door.
right by her door. But it was just the funniest thing of how, the dynamics, like with us when I was growing up, oh brother, nothing stayed on the floor. Nothing stayed on the floor. But it was just the funniest thing. I went, all right. I said, I'm not gonna look at these for another, you know, I'm gonna just pick them up and put them downstairs in the wash machine and see what happens with them. If they come back upstairs, well, hold on, don't know. They're not mine. But it was just, I just but then it was just funny
So
because it was my
what are
then it
you
was
gonna
my
do when they
decision to
don't
pick
get
them up.
moved over to the dryer?
Oh, that does happen. That does happen. I mean, we are all very good about moving each other's laundries. Like if you want to put in a load of laundry and there's laundry already in there, we are very good about it. Well, I think I told you the story of when my sheets. I had put in a load of sheets. Well, they went out of the wash machine into the dryer. Well, from the dryer, they went on the laundry table. Well, and then I of course forgot about them. And then went, but gee, oh, I never went down and got my sheets and went down. So they were just, but nothing gets folded. If it's not yours, they don't fold. So there was me, this pile of sheets. They were just totally wrinkled. And then I went,
And Barbara
okay,
can't sleep on wrinkled sheets.
my mother, while I was putting those sheets on my bed, I literally had a fight with my mother because I was like, my mother, I could hear my mother's voice in my head saying, what are you doing? Why are you putting wrinkled sheets on your bed? Well, mother, I'm 70 some odd years old. You have been gone for almost 10 years. I am putting, is it going to affect my sleep if I have wrinkled sheets on my bed? No, I'm putting wrinkled sheets because it was time to change my sheets. But in between,
Yeah, are you old? Are you old enough to make the decision to sleep on wrinkled sheets?
right. It comes right back to that decision of what our question was. Are we old enough to make our own decisions? Yes. Yes. I mean, it was like just the funniest thing. Here was me having an argument with my mother about putting wrinkled sheets. She would be rolling over. I mean, you ironed everything.
Yeah,
You ironed everything.
I remember ironing bras.
Oh yeah, we
The
ironed
cotton
underwear.
bras, you ironed them. Yeah.
Yeah. And then of course there was the time that my grandmother, I happened to say something about having to go upstairs and iron a blouse or something. I was an older teenager, and my grandmother heard me, and she turned around and she said, how dare you complain about having to go upstairs and iron a blouse? She says, you don't know what ironing is. And so she proceeded, she was born in 1887.
Mhm.
Well, she proceeded to give myself and my sisters a lecture on what ironing really was, when you had to go and shovel the path to the well, haul the water, stoke, break the ice off of the well,
Oh,
and then stoke the stove, make the starch, make the soap,
mhm.
stoke the stove, have 7 irons, the whole 9 yards. And her parting comment was, and you have the nerve to complain about having to go upstairs and flip a switch to turn on the iron.
Mhm. I have
Oh,
I have a sad iron sitting on my wood stove out in the barn.
my sister
And they're
collects them.
heavy. They're
They
heavy.
are
And they
heavy.
even had a handle that you could click and put
Yeah,
onto the next iron. It's like
right,
every iron didn't have a handle.
right,
It could move to because
exactly,
you had to have them, or it would get cold and you had to wait for it to heat up again. But you'd have
right.
them sitting all
Or
over
it
your
would be too high because you have to get them at a certain temperature. And they
Yeah,
were on the stove to get to certain temperatures.
yeah.
So she would have 7 irons.
And it's an art. A wood stove is an art.
Yes.
Ironing with a sat iron from a wood stove is an art because think about soot on a
Yeah.
white blouse. Think
Yeah.
about scorching. Think,
Yep.
I mean,
Exactly.
and I can remember my mom making the starch and it was
Oh, yeah.
a thick blue stuff that you put in the last rinse
Yep.
and stuff.
Oh,
I
yeah.
remember to spray stuff in a
There wasn't dispensers, and now I use spray on. I'm gonna tell. Don't remember. I have a can of spray starch. Don't remember the last time I ever used it because I
Mhm.
don't iron. If it's not permanent press, or if I do need to refresh something, I'll get like a wet flannel or a little towel, throw it in the dryer, throw my item in, toss it up, and it comes out like it's just been dried
And the
all
other
around.
day I had my shirt that I wear when I go to Cornerstone Outreach and give out food. And I pulled it out. I'd gotten it out of the dryer and thrown it in a basket and not hung it up.
Hmm.
That's right. So, I mean, I pulled out the wrinkle releaser. You
Yeah,
lay it out and you spray it and you kind
right
of,
on. Yeah,
like, that's good.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. How, and so, but you know what? That comes back to our question of the day. Are you old enough to make your own decision of what you're going to do?
Or,
So, like,
I could have decided to wear it wrinkled.
you could have worn it
Probably one of my
wrinkled.
grandkids would have just worn it wrinkled
Yeah. Well,
and been
listen,
there, done that.
I've come a long way, is that I will wear odd socks. Your wash machine hoards socks. And so I had this whole basket of odd socks. And I was just about to throw them out. And then one day, must have been Matilda. She came down the stairs, two completely different lengths of socks and socks, but she had socks on. And I went, So I went back upstairs, got out my box of odd socks, and went, okay, well, this one sort of maybe the same size. Some of them are a little, have a little bit of a raised, or some that are that are no show in your sneakers. So I sort of put some ones together, and it's like, and I felt like such a rebel that I had odd socks on. I'm such a rebel. I mean, I'm in my 70s now, and I'm going to rebel against my mother, because heaven forbid if something didn't match.
Yeah.
And my sister, love her dearly. We are the best of friends. Even her blacks have to match.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Now, yeah.
Seriously. And we would have these great conversations about the colors that matched or colors that coordinated, and your whites should match. And it's like, but it's white. Yeah, but it's not the same color of white.
Mm-hmm.
And yesterday, getting ready for church, I had on a pair of black capris. I have a pretty black jacket, and I put it on, and Liz's voice in my head. It doesn't match, Barbara. It's a different color of black. Okay, fine. Took it off. Couldn't go out. And I forgot to tell her that. I was going to tell her that. I'll call her today and tell her.
Just
But it
send
was
a
her
copy of
voice in
this
my head.
video once it's, up on Facebook.
I laughed so hard. It was like, and so hence our conversation of today. Are you old enough to make your own decisions that are only yours?
Yeah. Well, and there are decisions that you can make that are going to affect other people.
Yes.
That is a whole different
That's a
ballgame.
different story.
Wrinkled sheets and
Totally yours.
mismatched socks only affect you.
Yeah, exactly. And so whatever. So it was just the funniest thing. It was just, and several things like that happened this weekend. I said, so that's when Carol and I, we were just talking about it. Of just, are we old enough to make our own decision? If Carol just brought up a really good point too, that if the decision that you're making is going to affect other people, okay, now that's a different story.
Yeah.
And that's where you have to just be really quick to listen to their point of view, but then be slow to answer. Don't just bark back out something. Listen, and then be slow to answer. And then if you really don't agree, if it is a different impact for you, then just be slow to anger. And let those things go along with making a decision. If it's something that only affects you, like my socks and my sheets, okay, fine. But if it is something that's going to impact somebody else, then just listen. Be quick to listen, and then slow to speak. Don't just reply. Don't just blurt out whatever. Well, that's in one of those kinds of things.
Yeah.
And just listen to their side of why they want. And
Well,
I have to admit, there have been times where I have been guilty of just responding.
oh,
Well, how can you think that way?
yeah.
We all have.
We even do it on our show
Yeah.
and our work time that we work together.
Yeah.
But the thing is I think that's, people complain about the younger generation, and I know that's happened every generation throughout
Every
time.
generation. Exactly.
But I think that there's one of the disconnects with them is that they say, well, it's my decision. Well, but they make that decision even when it might affect someone else.
Somebody else.
And I think that may be a little bit of the disconnect in their way of looking at the world as opposed to other people's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yet every generation has said the same thing. One day I was reading, I'm trying to think of who wrote it, but it was written back and they were using it as an example. And I don't remember who I heard it from, but they were, read this, and does what this whole thing apply today? And as I was reading it, it was like, oh, that is absolutely applicable to what's going on in the world today. And then, of course, after it, we all had the discussion. We were all talking of why it applies to today. And this was something modern. And what it was, it had been written in like the early 1800s. And it was like, really? And we were like, and they were like, yeah, this was written, and who it was and when it was written and what big thing it was in. And we were all like, oh, brother, because it really is generational.
Yeah. Well, in the Bible, it says there's nothing new under the sun.
There's
And
nothing new under
just
the sun.
flippant comments, it's like what goes around comes around.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whether
Exactly.
it's fashion, whether it's the situations like we're talking about, uh, just all those different things.
Yeah.
What has been will be again.
Right. Yeah.
And
So
there's
it was
big
like,
changes. The big change when the flood came with Noah, the world was never the same again. The
right.
big change when Jesus came
Right.
and died and resurrected, the world was never the same again. We're in an era change that I think that we're fixing to hit at some stuff that the world may not be the same again. You only know that by hindsight, but I
Right.
think that's
Right.
where we are. I truly think that that's one of the things we're dealing with. But on that note, if you're watching us on Facebook, please click like and share. And if you're watching us on YouTube at a later time, click the little button, the little thumbs up, so it helps the algorithms to find us. Please subscribe and please ring the little bell so you'll get notified. So y'all have a wonderful day. And remember, circle up.
Circle up.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. See you next time.